the incident at the factory. It was a typical Friday morning at the manufacturing plant. The hum of machines, the chatter of workers, and the occasional clanging of metal filled the air. Maintenance work was a routine part of the day, ensuring that all machinery operated efficiently. On this particular day, 2 maintenance workers were tasked with inspecting and servicing an overhead indoor crane. They were seasoned professionals familiar with the risks and intricacies of working high above the factory floor. The crane, a massive piece of equipment used to lift and move heavy materials, was suspended from the ceiling. It required regular maintenance to ensure its safety and functionality. The 2 workers, Mike and Tom, ascended in a scissor lift, a mobile platform that could extend high into the air, providing them with the necessary access to the crane's mechanisms. Mike and Tom had worked together for years. They had developed a seamless rhythm, communicating with hand signals and short, efficient commands. Mike, the older of the 2, had a reputation for being meticulous and cautious. Tom, younger and more energetic, was known for his problem-solving skills and quick thinking. As they ascended, Mike inspected the crane's controls while Tom examined the structural integrity of the crane itself. Their focus was intense. Every bolt, wire, and pulley was scrutinized. They were aware that even the smallest oversight could lead to catastrophic consequences. The unseen danger. Unbeknownst to Mike and Tom, a new worker on the factory floor had been assigned to move materials using a different overhead crane. This worker, inexperienced and unfamiliar with the complexities of the machinery, grabbed a remote control for the second crane. He had not been properly trained and was unaware of the proximity of the 2 cranes. As the worker on the floor began to move the second crane, it slowly but steadily advanced towards the crane Mike and Tom were working on. Mike, always vigilant, noticed the movement out of the corner of his eye. His heart skipped a beat. He immediately recognized the impending danger. "Tom, duck!" Mike shouted, his voice echoing through the cavernous factory space. He instinctively dropped to his knees, flattening himself against the scissor lift's platform. Tom, however, did not react as quickly. Startled by Mike's sudden outburst, he turned to see what was happening. In that split second, the second crane collided with the one they were servicing. The force of the impact was immense, and Tom was caught between the 2 massive metal structures. The horrific moment. The collision was brutal. Tom's body was crushed between the 2 cranes, his torso compressed with unimaginable force. The impact was so severe that it threw him off balance. As the cranes separated slightly, Tom's body was released, and he plummeted out of the scissor lift, falling to the factory floor below. The fall was long enough for Tom to experience a fleeting moment of clarity. He felt the wind rushing past him, the blur of machinery, and the factory's concrete floor coming into sharp focus. Then, with a sickening thud, he hit the ground. Workers on the floor who witnessed the fall rushed to his side. The scene was gruesome. Tom's injuries were catastrophic. His internal organs were severely damaged, and there was a grotesque protrusion of his intestines. Despite the horrific injuries, Tom was still conscious, his eyes wide with shock and pain. The aftermath. Mike, still on the scissor lift, was in a state of shock. He stared down at his fallen colleague, his mind struggling to process what had just happened. The factory floor was chaotic, with workers shouting for help and others trying to provide what little aid they could to Tom. Emergency services were called immediately. The factory's safety protocols kicked in, and first responders arrived swiftly. They worked quickly to stabilize Tom, administering emergency medical care right there on the factory floor. Despite their best efforts, it was clear that Tom's injuries were too severe. He was rushed to the nearest hospital, but he succumbed to his injuries en route. News of the accident spread quickly through the plant. Work was halted, and the factory was shut down for the day. There was an air of disbelief and sorrow among the workers. Many had known Tom personally, and the reality of his death was hard to accept. The call. At home, I received a call from my team lead. His voice was uncharacteristically upbeat, which struck me as odd given the situation. "Hey, work shut down for the day. Looks like we get a long weekend," he said almost gleefully. I was taken aback by his tone. "What happened?" I asked, sensing that there was more to the story. "Oh, just some maintenance issue," he replied casually. One of the guys had an accident. Don't worry about it, just enjoy the time off. I pressed for more details, but he was evasive. It wasn't until later that I heard the full story from my coworkers. The reality was far more tragic and harrowing than my team lead had let on. Tom's death was a stark reminder of the dangers inherent in our line of work and the importance of safety protocols, reflection, and change. In the days that followed, the factory management launched a thorough investigation into the accident. They interviewed witnesses, reviewed safety procedures, and examined the equipment involved. The investigation revealed several critical failures, including insufficient training for the worker who had operated the second crane and inadequate communication between the maintenance team and the floor workers. The tragedy prompted immediate changes in safety protocols. The factory implemented more rigorous training programs, ensuring that all workers were properly educated on the machinery they operated. New safety measures were put in place to prevent similar accidents, including improved communication systems and more stringent oversight of maintenance activities. The loss of Tom had a profound impact on everyone at the factory. He was remembered as a dedicated worker and a good friend. A memorial was held in his honor, and his family was supported by the company and his colleagues. His death served as a somber reminder of the importance of workplace safety and the human cost of negligence. Conclusion. The incident that day was a tragic confluence of errors and misjudgments. It highlighted the critical need for proper training, vigilant safety practices, and clear communication in the workplace. While the factory has since made significant strides in improving safety, the memory of Tom's untimely death remains a poignant reminder of the inherent risks of our work and the importance of safeguarding each other in every task we undertake.